Such a nice warm welcome. What a great community. Thank you so much for being here and braving the cold weather, right? All right. So I'm Yasmine Evjen. I lead the material design advocacy team here at Google, and we're going to be talking about material theming with Flutter. And we're going to talk about how easy it is to theme, and hopefully show off some of the cool integration that Matthias talked about earlier with that, font hot reloading or font reloading. What did he call it? Anyways, we're super excited to kind of show you what we've been doing. But first, let's take a look at where we've been. We introduced material design in 2014, and it was a system for creating bold, beautiful, and consistent digital experiences. And it was a great design system to start building with. And with that, we had material principles and guidelines. We built this upon paper. Paper is something that maybe some of you are actually holding with right now, and it's something that you're very familiar with. And we wanted to create a UI that was built on this real-world grounded experience. We wanted to provide visual cues like shadows that were grounded in reality. By creating this really familiar experience that responded to your touch, we wanted to create a UI that was easy to understand. And we provided stylistic choices like color, surface, and typography to create emphasis. We had the Roboto type scale, which created a nice hierarchy for your types to use throughout your products. And we also had a color palette that worked well together. So we had the Roboto type scale, rules around surfaces and shape, and a fixed color palette. And this principles and guidelines unified apps across Google. And it also unified millions of external apps that launched with material design on Android, iOS, and the web. And this consistency was great for usability, but there were some issues. As you can see, that there's two email clients shown on the screen, and one of them is Gmail, another one is another email client, and they look pretty similar other than just changing the color. So there was little room to express brand. And so we asked ourselves, how might we allow for brand expression while maintaining the usability of material? And last year, we introduced material theming. It provided more flexibility for brands to express their different styles, and it was backed by official code, including a library specifically for Flutter. So in order to make a lot of these explorations with material theming, we created a playground to explore new ideas. And we needed some constraints for our design decisions. So we created 8 hypothetical products, everything from editorial to finance, each with logos, brand voices, and style guides. And we started with broad explorations, thinking outside of the original system. We didn't want to design within the vacuum of a sticker sheet. We explored big, bold typographic layouts. And we explored tonal colors and unique applications across whole backgrounds of the UI. We also explored some surface shape and elevation and motion, and some of them didn't make the cut. For example, this example that we're sharing right now, it breaks our elevation model, so we didn't include it in the system. But we really tried to push the system and explore ways and think, how can we provide a lot of that customization, but not really use the usability that material was really known for? So all of this exploration was done within the context of material principles, content and context, and user intention. With content and context, we design with real use cases. For example, we explored what an information architecture would be for each product. And in this example, an editorial, we wanted to ask ourselves, what type of navigation patterns would an editorial app like this use? Would a cascading navigation drawer work? Tabs? We really wanted to explore all of that. And we also wanted to explore what patterns were appropriate for finance. What would a dashboard look like? How would it respond to different screen sizes and other platforms? And we also wanted to design with user intention based on real flows. So all of this was within, again, the context of all of our studies. For example, this recipe app, we explored how can we show all those beautiful images that really get you into the information that you need. Or if you're booking a flight, what kind of information would we want to surface to you? What would be most important? So all of this was really considered when we were looking at material theming. And we looked at all of this within brand expression, asking questions like, what is the brand's aesthetic? And how is it coming across in the UI? We looked at color and shape, typography and iconography. And we did this exercise with Google partners and products, creating the Google material theme. And so we had these expressions, but we needed a way to enable everyone to build upon these styles. And so we needed a starting point and a way to make expression accessible to both designers and developers. We updated the baseline components based on the original system and included new components and expanded state information. And we needed code for designers and developers to be on the same page. I think that's a core thing to, as you're learning here today, is that in order to create beautiful experiences, it requires both design and development. And it's really coming together and bridging those two. And with material components, they are open source and they're available for Flutter, Android, the web, and iOS. Excuse me, I need to get some water. Okay. So we identified 3 ways to systematically express style, typography, and color. We dissected all of our components into elements to find the areas and where we can inject these styles. So let's look at the button as an example, because that's something that's pretty easy to kind of grasp and see all the customization really take shape. And then we're going to dive deep into actually customizing all the components. So just hold on, we'll get there. But here, as we explore the button component, the typography style gets applied to the text element. And then the shape gets applied to the container element. And then color gets applied both to the container and text element. And we did this exercise for all of our components. And it was really important for us to establish a common language so that when we are talking to our designers and developers, that we were all on the same page when we wanted to enable theming. So we needed a system for both designers and developers to express and control brand at a global level. So we curated a simple architecture. Each system, type, shape, and color, is made of 3 levels, nested within each other, starting with categories. And each one of those categories has a set of attributes, depending on the subsystem. And then within that, you have some values. And this is where all the details really get placed, and you can really begin to customize. So let's take a look at how this is actually applied to a component. Let's look at the material theming type system. The material typography system relies on type scale, so H1 through 6, subtitles, body, and copy, and a range of contrasting categories that support the needs of the product and its content. Each of these categories has the same set of attributes, and this is where the material theming really comes in. So for instance, for typography, you have your font family, your size, weight, later spacing, and case. And by default, we provide some values that we call our baseline material theme. So for baseline button, we have Roboto, medium, and at 16. And so here's all of those values applied to the button. And now, if we wanted to customize those values to really start theming, here's what it would start to look like. So right now, we changed the font family to Railway, and then also updated the font size. Now, if we were to apply those changes to button, each one of the components that takes on that button text style would get applied and updated, like that. And with materials theming, we wanted to provide additional guidance and resources to help everyone customize. We provided some guidance, with display fonts can be used to express your brand within large headlines. And it's really good to use this within large headlines so you can still make things readable, but add some style to it. But don't use display fonts for small text sizes. legibility is still really important, ensuring that your users are still able to read what's going on in the page. And one of the things that we did enable you to do is change the button case. But one of the things that we want to caution you is to ensure that you are providing enough affordances so that the user know that it is an action that they can take. And with Google Fonts, you can use all of the fonts that are available in the repository. And as Matthias said today, that we do have a Google Fonts package for Flutter that makes it really easy, and we're going to dive into how to do that. So let's actually start to build our material theme with type. We're going to start by using Railway instead of Roboto. It is a geometric sans serif typeface, and it's a little bit more rounded, so it's a little bit more playful than Roboto. OK, so let's look at the code of how to actually apply Google Fonts into your projects, into your Flutter projects. You would have to add your dependencies of Google Fonts within the pubspec.yaml file, and then you would import your package, the Google Fonts package, into your Dart code. It's pretty simple. And now that you have all of your files ready to go to actually take on and use Google Fonts into your Flutter projects, we've created a tool that enables you to choose any one of those Google Fonts, and it creates a typographic scale that's built on Roboto. So it gives you all of that functionality, and it's actually going to spit out the code for you. And it's coming soon. I'm going to show you a sneak peek, so bear with us as we go through the demo as we're working through that. But we're really excited to show you. Let's see. All right. All right, so let's go to the demo. As you can see here, wonderfully. This is running locally on my machine. It's, again, coming soon. But we have our type scale right now with headline 1 through 6 and body, and you can see all of the values that are added to it. Can you read that OK? If not, I can make that a little bit bigger. Yeah, cool. All right, so if we're going to go in here and change some of the values, let's try Railway, because that's the one we wanted to use. And it quickly updates all of our headlines, and we can also apply Railway to our body and captions. And Railway is a font that does work in small text, which is really nice. But I kind of want to change it up a little bit. So I'm going to try to use Source Code Pro. Ooh, I really like that, which is a monospace font. And so I'm feeling like pretty confident that this is a direction that I want to go. We have our nice headlines using Railway, and then our body and captions using Source Code Pro. And so I have all those values that I can implement myself, but here's the magic part. We have the code available to be applied throughout our components on web, Android, and Flutter. So it's coming soon. Keep an eye out. We're excited. And one of the things that we keep hearing from the community is, we know that you have this type scale, but how do we actually quickly apply it and take advantage of all the wonderful things that Material is doing? And again, this provides the code, so you don't have to worry about how each one maps to the Flutter type scale or Android type scale. You can copy and paste it. All right, so we're going to copy this here, and we're going to go over to our wonderful, oh no, can we go to the slides for a second? Technical difficulty, 1 second. I mean, everything's going great. Nothing, it's the funness of it all. Just give me 1 second. Oh, there it goes. All right. And OK. Let's go back to the demo. Wonderful. OK, so we have our project running right here. Yes, you can read it. It's pretty good. And so we have all of our components available right here with this within our Build a Material Theme project. And all of this is built in Flutter. And so you can see right now that it's actually just using the default type scale, which is Roboto. But we're going to update this to use Railway and the source code Pro. We're going to save that, hopefully. Let's see. Let's go on. All right, it's going to start up again. See, development is hard, and so is designing. There we go. Yay. So you can see that Railway's been applied to all of our headlines, and as well as Source Code Pro has been applied to our body tags, and it's starting to look really nice just by changing a few values there. And again, this type scale generator also provides the font size so that you can ensure it looks great within all of the components. And all of this is backed by Flutter code, so all of this is interactive that you can start building with. All right, let's look at the slides. So let's start theming our shape system. Material breaks all of our shape system down into 3 categories, which is small components, medium components, and large components. And this enables you to customize the components depending on size, so it still creates consistency, but allows you some extra customization along the way. And within each one of these categories, you have shape size and shape family. Shape size is like your dip size, so how rounded a corner would be or how large a cut would be. And then a shape family is going to be the one where you get to choose kind of like if you want your rounded corners or if you want the cut corners, which are those really sharp edges. And so let's look at how we apply this. So by default, the button takes on round and 4 dip. And dips are density-independent pixels as a unit of measurement that ensures that everything stays the same physical size across screens regardless of pixel density. So if we wanted to customize this and make it a little bit more playful, similar to that Railway typeface that we're using, we want to change this to 20 dip to make it really round. Now, this is within the small category, so all of our other components that fall under their small category would also take in this shape theming. And this is what it would look like. Our button's a little bit more rounded, and so are our text fields. And within material theming, we also wanted to include some extra guidance and resources. Shape is a great way to really draw attention to the user on actions that they can take. This is the example with the floating action button. It kind of stands out in the grid of squares as a circle. It's really floating there, and it's drawing attention to kind of guide you to the most important action. And in this example, this app is using asymmetric shapes to emphasize certain areas in the UI, such as the navigation. And it's using cut corners because the logo is this diamond that really has these kind of like sharp cut corner edges. So there's different ways to express your brand within shape. Within this example, you can communicate component state. So there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of use shape theming to still draw attention and guide the user on things that they should be focusing on, but still have some of those like subtle brand expressions that you can have within style. But we also have some guidance. I know there's some of you out there that are like, but my brand is a truck, and I would love to use this truck here to really like draw that in. And I'm here to tell you, I'm sorry, but please do not truck up your buttons. So don't make your UI unrecognizable. Ensure that you're still maintaining a lot of those affordances. And we also have a shape tool, and we're going to dive into it in a little bit. But this allows you to customize your shape system and see which one of those components map to each one of those categories. And so let's build a material theme with shape. In this example, we're creating the crane material theme. And so we're going to, for our small components, we're going to use 20 dip, as well as, and for medium components, it's going to be 16 dip, and our large components, 20 dip. And if you're asking me, Yasmine, OK, I don't know all of the small, medium, and large categories by heart, I'm here to tell you, don't worry, we have the tool that you can reference and look at and easily implement it into our components. So this is the code on how you would do it. But let's say, let's go to the demo so we can see this. So within the demo, you can see that we have our small components here, which again is like the button, chip, text field. And by default, it's set to 4. But we said it was going to be 20. So if we drag this over to the 20 spot, you can see that it's really rounded all these corners, so it's created a really nice scheme. If you wanted to use cut corners, you can quickly see how that looks as well. But we're going to stick to rounded for now. Oh, no, it went back. File a bug. And so we know that for our small shape system, we're going to want to change our text fields and buttons. And within Flutter, you have to customize all of this within the component level. But since you have the components that are within that category, it makes it really easy. So let's go over to our code here. And we can see that we have code that tells us that our buttons are at 4 dip. And we're going to change that to 20 so we can start to see our shape take place. Look at that awesome hot reload. Just automatically works. It's fantastic. I love it. So you can see our buttons are pretty rounded now. But we're also going to have to update our text fields. So let's look at where our text fields are here. So this is our text fields, again, at 4. Let's save that. And there we go. Pretty nice and rounded, and all of our small components have taken that new shape. And then let's update our card, which is going to be in our medium category. But again, if you forgot which ones belong, let's go back to the tool that tells you which components belong in the medium category. The medium components is going to be things like cards and dialogue. So it's at 4. If we update that to 20, no, maybe 16, it feels like a little bit better. So we update that to 16, and now we can go and implement that into our code. And there we go. Now you've seen that our card has a nice rounded corners of 16 dip. Now let's go back to the slides. So we're going to look at how to apply the other subsystem, which is color. And we've broken up our categories by primary and non-primary. And so this is done to ensure that you have enough contrast on the colors that you are choosing, so you get to customize the on colors to ensure that everything is still legible. And within these categories, you have your attributes, which are the container hex and the content hex. And these are the default values for our material baseline, which uses this purple with white on top. And so now if we were to actually customize this and just change our primary color, and the on color would remain the same to a more kind of a deeper maroon type color, this is how it would get applied to the button. Now if we change that primary color, it would cascade throughout all of our components, giving us a really nice branded theme. So within that, we also provided some guidance and resources. Primary and secondary colors can be used to express brand. And also, we want you to allocate semantic meaning for your color application. So in this example, Crane uses this kind of a deep purple as one of the primary colors, and the secondary color is red. So you don't want to make your errors red because it would kind of confuse users with your brand. And so using something like orange would be a good suggestion to kind of guide users to, hey, there's an error, but it's not actually one of the brand colors. And again, all text should be legible and meet accessibility standards, so don't do this. Make sure that you make things legible and readable. And we also have this great palette generation tool that allows you to pick any color, and it generates this wonderful palette that you can use in your UI. So let's actually start building a material theme with color. For this example, we're going to use the crane logo for inspiration, and it's going to take that deep purple for the primary color, and it's going to use the red on the crane to use it as a secondary color to emphasize actions. And this is the code that you would actually use to implement. But before we get there, I want to go to our demo here, and I'm going to show off the color tool so that you can see how you can get a lot of these color palettes already. Now, I did all the hard work for us. I already inputted the hex code here so that you can see the wonderful tonal palette. So as you can see, once you generate the hex value, you put the hex value, it creates this wonderful tonal palette that you can use. I usually like to use kind of the lighter 50 shade for like a background color that usually is really nice. But it gives you a lot of different tonal palettes and things to play with, so you can really start experimenting with color without it being something that doesn't align. So again, I did my homework, and I created this wonderful color scheme here now that we can show you how this is going to implement our new primary color throughout all of our components. Wow. And just like that, now we have all of our components using our primary and secondary colors, and it's really starting to look like a great app that you can use across all your products. But I feel like it's missing something. I really love adding that background color, and I've already, I've set it here as my background color, but I'm going to go into the scaffold widget in Flutter and assign the background color so that we can actually start seeing this. All right. Boom. Just like that. So Flutter makes it really easy to start customizing your apps with material theming. And all of these tools are available for you to use right now. So if we go to the slide, please. All right, thanks. So you can easily material theme with Flutter. And we have these examples. If you go to flutter.github.io/samples, that has a lot of our material studies, as well as starter baseline kits, so you can start theming right away. And also on material.io/resources, you can find other examples to help you start theming right away. And again, the typographic scale generator is coming soon, so keep an eye out. Check out on material.io. It's going to be there. But we're really excited to see what y'all start building with. You can see that throughout this theming system and categories and attributes and values, you can create so much expression in your UI. Thank you so much.